Mickey 17 is a new sci-fi dramedy or sci-fi thriller or maybe sci-fi socio-political satire. It's actually unclear what genre this movie is specifically, but that's Bong Joon-Ho for you. He is a genre all to himself. He directed and wrote this movie, and this movie also stars Robert Pattinson. It stars Naomi Ackie. It stars Steven Yeun. It stars Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, and it also stars Robert Pattinson, you know, in case I didn't already mention that. So the story here is that a disposable employee played by Robert Pattinson, he is sent on a human exposition to this ice planet called Niflheim. He's an expendable. Why he's called an expendable is that every time he dies, a new iteration of him is drummed up. A new body is created. This new body has all of his memories and all of his personality traits. So essentially, it's like he dies and then gets reborn the next day. Chaos ensues in this movie when accidentally a new print of him is created while the other print of him is still alive, and thus we have Mickey 17. It's kind of hard to believe that this is Bong Joon-Ho's first movie in like 6 years. This is his first film since Parasite, which came out in 2019. Parasite was a fucking masterpiece, by the way. I know this movie was technically supposed to come out last year. It got delayed and pushed until this year, and I'm glad we're finally seeing it. This was on my most anticipated list of the year. Like I said, Bong is a man of many different genres. His movies always have a little bit of everything in them, and that's probably the biggest selling point I can give you for this movie. This movie is bursting to the seams with different genres. It's a sci-fi movie for sure. This movie is also a comedy. It has a consistent tone of irreverent, sometimes absurd humor scattered throughout the entire film. And then there are some parts of this film that are gonna feel like satire. There are some parts of this film that are gonna feel a little bit socio-political. The point is, whatever you need, Bong's got you. Bong's your man, and Bong is gonna deliver the goods. And he's also gonna deliver the goods with a fantastic looking movie. There's a high level of visual storytelling here that combines with really sharp and precise depth of field, also combines with really elite production and art design. I like the way that the ships are designed. I like the way the technology looks. I like the way the animals and the creatures, the aliens in this movie look, although technically I guess we would be the aliens going to their planet. The point is, this movie looks like it would fit right in with a Star Wars movie or with a Star Trek movie. In fact, if you wanted to call this a rated R version of a Star Trek episode, I wouldn't be mad at that description. Another thing that really pushes this movie along is excellent performances. This movie is so well acted, and that's really everybody in the cast from the top on down. Robert Pattinson, I'm not sure what more needs to be said about him to convince you that he is one of the best actors of his generation, but take it from me, he's one of the best actors of his generation. This guy is just consistently cranking out banger after banger after banger, and it's no different in this movie where he has to play essentially multiple versions of himself. What if I had a different version of myself that was reviewing games, and then a different version of myself that was reviewing TV shows, and another version of myself that reviews movies? Would you guys appeal to that? No, you're right. That is way too much awesome for one channel. We're just gonna stick to one singular fine-ass vision here, and that is me. Also, shout out to Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette. There's usually an over-the-top element to a lot of Bong's films, and they are absurdly over-the-top in all of the right ways. Very hilarious performance from both of them. Naomi Ackie is the next performance that kind of steals the show in a lot of ways. I first noticed her in that movie that came out last year, directed by Zoe Kravitz. I think it was called Blink Twice or something. I thought she was really good in that movie. I loved her character in this movie. She has one of the best characters in the entire movie. If my man was a character, that would be Naomi Ackie in this movie. As a helpless romantic, I really relate to her character a lot. This is one of Bong's most romantic movies, if not his most romantic movie. I love love unapologetically, and this movie is oozing with love, not just from the passion of the filmmakers and the people who made it, like from the technical display, but the love that's put into this script, the love that's put into these characters, the love that Naomi Akkie's character shows, and in return Robert Pattinson's character shows her. It's giving yearning, it's giving fairy tale, it's giving forever. I love those type of movies that really hammer that shit home. But that's not to say this movie is just a romance movie. As I said, it has a lot to say about a lot of different things. This movie has a lot to say about capitalism. It has a lot to say about colonialism. It has a lot to say about greed and humanity in general. There's a lot this movie's trying to say about mortality. It's also having a lot to say about the workforce. I would probably say my two bigger takeaways from this movie, if I'm just going to peel a message out from it, is that loving yourself and being loved for being you, even the parts of yourself you don't recognize or don't vibe with, that's one of the most human things that humans can do. The other thing I take away from this movie is that life is not work. Like, life is what gives work meaning. And so if you work and you have no life, you don't have meaning. Workers matter too, people. Now, I will say this, a lot of people are gonna go into this movie and they're gonna think, ooh, well, we have another Parasite level masterpiece on our hands. And I'm here to tell you, No, not really. So adjust your expectations going in if you're expecting it to be on that level. Me personally, I did have a few flaws that kept me from fully embracing this one. I do think the storytelling is a little bit messy and a little bit unfocused, especially the longer that the movie goes on. Once we get into the second act and beyond, we start getting into a lot of shifting point of views, and the movie becomes a little bit unclear about what exactly it's trying to say. It starts going off in a lot of different story directions, and it doesn't really commit to any of these directions, so sometimes it feels like there's a little bit too much going on in the movie. If you have a lack of clarity in a movie like this, you get towards the end and you start wondering like, okay, what are we doing here? What are we aiming for? What's the message here overall? In a movie where it tries to say a little bit too much, sometimes it feels like it's not really saying anything. And that's not me saying the movie's not saying anything. That's just me saying that it could have said what it was trying to say a little bit cleaner, a little bit more focused. Because as a result, once you get to the end of the movie, it just feels like all the momentum has shifted from the narrative. I really like it. I think it's funny. I think it's got heart. It's got romance. It's a high concept sci-fi movie that deals with a lot of themes that we've seen before. And while it juggles some of it pretty well, it doesn't handle most of it as well as you want. Mickey 17 was well made, weird, and fun throughout. I'm gonna leave this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Tell me, what are your thoughts on Mickey 17? What are your favorite Bong Joon-Ho movies of all time? Go ahead and put that in the comment section below, or give me a ranking of your favorite Bong Joon-Ho films. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.